Hey, back to you with an update on this Edge Insight EGT probe situation. I went into a lot more detail on this setup, the issues I was having with it, which I'm still having, and a little bit about the install. If you can find it, watch that video. That'll give you some more detail. What I'm doing today is just kind of going over with you the EGT temperatures. Currently, after some changes have been made to the truck, and we recently, well actually I guess it's been about 4 or 5 weeks now, we've completed about a 2,000 mile trip from Idaho to Mississippi, towing our 15,000 pound, roughly 15,000 pound toy hauler. And so I briefly talked about on that first video what the temperatures were, and this is on a completely stock truck. The only thing I did at that time was install the Edge Insight, you know, they're the company's EGT probe. I did it on a complete stock truck between cylinders 5 and 6, so I can get that accurate EGT reading. And the temperatures were pretty high without towing, just doing a quick shot up to about 100. And anyway, I talk about that on the video, so check that out. But now, after completing that trip, I can tell you a little more about my EGTs. So EGTs on, I mean, level ground, it pretty much stayed in about the 1,000 to 1,200 pretty much the entire time. And if you went up any slight kind of hill, any slight pull, and you're 1,100s pretty easily. I would say throughout the trip, say from about Idaho down to through Albuquerque, you know, where there was a lot of hills and passes, this truck I probably averaged near 1,250 degrees, I'd say, all the time. I mean, it ran there pretty much the whole time. You know, obviously you go downhill and it drops 700, 800 briefly, and then it shoots right back up. So temperatures run pretty hot on a stock truck. Most guys don't know that, and if you didn't install a probe like I did, you would probably never know this. But anyway, it ran much hotter. One of my previous trucks was a 17 Ram, and it was tuned and had all the stuff taken off, and it ran pretty cool. I didn't really have to worry about EGTs, even running a 200 horse tune towing the same trailer. You know, there was certain passes I had to back off a little bit and had to drive it with some caution, but yeah, I didn't have any problems with EGTs. And this truck, stock, was, you know, I mean, we're talking 200 some degrees more than that truck ran EGT. So it was pretty crazy in stock form. But anyway, so some of those bigger passes, I would get up in the 1300s and pretty much be in the 1300s the entire way up. It didn't take very long to get up to that 1300s, and on a couple passes I was dang near 1400, but it never quite got to 1400. You know, it stayed 1380s. I think 1396 was the highest that I saw on those passes. So I was expecting it, before I towed with it, I was expecting the truck to get hotter than that, but it didn't. But still, like I said, pretty much it didn't take, I don't know, say 200 or 300 yards starting up some of these grades, and you're in the 1300s, 1330, 1350, and 60, pretty much the entire way up the hill. So anyway, that's pretty hot, much hotter than I'm used to running any diesel truck, as most of them have been tuned and had some sort of gauge so I can monitor this exact thing. So anyway, those were the temperatures towing, and definitely the higher elevation seems to exaggerate the temperatures. You know, once you get down closer to sea level, you know, I got into Texas and Arkansas and some places where it started to get flatter and definitely lower elevation, you know, 2,000, 2,500, 2,000, 1,500 feet elevation. Temperatures are less of an issue. It really does change your temperatures pretty drastically, and it did on my 17 too. When I was down here at lower elevation, I didn't have to worry about exhaust temperatures. It was never an issue. Even towing what hills you can find around here, I never had a problem with EGTs. But you start getting up to the passes and higher elevation, and then you'd have definitely a little more of an issue with EGTs. So anyway, I think I'll take this for a quick drive and go over a couple things. So right now you can see I'm at 257 degrees. I've been sitting here for about 10 minutes. I've had to idle up, and it's warming up, so we're good. So I'm going to kick it down, and it does drop down. So just sitting here idling, this is what the temperature is. Now I'm going to go on a road here. That I go on quite often. And I want to give you just kind of a quick rundown of these temperatures now. And I'll explain some more. So what you're looking at now is I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but basically it's now a tuned truck, altered and tuned, and I'll just leave it at that. So you can see, I'll get over there, we got, well, it's not going to show up, but basically I got 300 miles on this truck, and I can just hold it at this gauge here so you guys can see what we're doing. All right, so the tune I'm on is number 5. You can see it up in above the EGTs there. That is, I believe it's a 150 horse tune on it now, and I'm not getting on it. We're like just shifted about 1,500, 1,600 RPMs. I'm in 5th gear. So the road I'm going to take is a pretty flat road, and I'll go down it for about a mile or two, and we're just cruising kind of here in town. I'm not going to really lay into it a whole lot because that's how things break, but I'll get into it a little bit. All my shifting is happening at about 2 grand. Cruise is set at 70. So this is a pretty flat section. There's not much of an incline at all here. This is all pretty flat. So from my buddy's shop, this pretty much stayed in about the 600-700 range. It bumped up into the low 800s briefly for a slight hill, and that was it. So again, we're cruising set at 70. Slight incline right there briefly. Those are the temperatures. So I'm gonna get off this exit here. Now, unfortunately, I didn't do a video of the truck stock of these EGTs, but that trip right there, that trip right there would have pretty much been, I'd say, an average of about 800, 850 doing that stretch right there. Okay, again, I'll get on to it a little bit. We're about hitting about 20 psi in boost, and it's making it shifts about 1800, 2000. Still climbing, 75, 80. Now we're dropping back down to 70. So there's the RPM. We're cruising at 70 miles an hour. Temperatures, if you can see them. There's EGTs. We're just 70 miles an hour, level ground. This truck pretty much runs in the 600s, low 700s, empty. That's it. The difference is pretty drastic from where it was before, as I'm sure lots of you can imagine. This emission stuff it's forced upon us. It's a problem that we have to even deal with it, because it is not good for economy, it's not good for longevity, and definitely not good for reliability. Truck is getting a move on with very little throttle input. It's shifting at about 1500, 1300, and it's with the tune, it is a night and day difference. Just it's gonna be an animal pulling this toy hauler, which I believe we'll do today or tomorrow to go visit some family for the weekend. Okay, here we are, back same spot. Turn my heater off, turn my wipers off. Okay, so almost instantly, these temperatures. Now that was another thing. Just driving around normal, doing a brief trip or going to the store. You know, you got to sit here a good minute or two, probably close to 2 minutes, before I could get this to drop down. I like to see my EGTs drop to below 400 before I turn the truck off. It's a good idea to do on any turbo tractor, car, pickup. It don't matter. Any turbo machine, it's good to let the exhaust temperature and stuff cool down a little bit before you turn it off real quick. I know it was a big issue on some Mitsubishi Eclipses and certain stuff. Guys were going through a lot of motors, or not motors, but turbos and different stuff, and that was one thing that they were told from the dealers, is you've got to let these cars cool down before you turn them off. That's what's causing that issue. So it's kind of been known that that you need to try to let the stuff cool down before you just shut it off. And with these recent modifications, almost instantly when you stop, it is below 400 degrees. Drastic temperature change on these EGTs. So we did a couple things before we took the we did a tune, and we unplugged the EGR cooler but left everything intact. The exhaust was intact, and everything was hooked up, and I played with it for, I don't know, I'd say about 60-70 miles, coming from my buddy's shop and then driving around, then going back up there later on to do some other modifications. And that alone dropped the EGTs quite a bit. There's definitely a little bit of a change now with the other modifications, but just having the tune and the EGR unplugged, I don't know if it's because the EGR was unplugged or because of the tune or because of both, but the truck ran substantially cooler than it did before, not too far off from what it is doing now and what it did. Now obviously you couldn't run it very long that way, because your particular filters and stuff in the exhaust would get plugged up, and then you probably would be running some hot temperatures and you'd be having all kinds of problems. So you couldn't do that for long. But surprisingly, just those two mods really changed the temperatures. And now that the rest of the system has been handled, the temperatures are slightly better, and yeah, everything is good to go. So anyway, I just want to do an update. The video's going a little longer than I was hoping for, but I hope I can give you a good demonstration of the EGTs and kind of how that's working, what's going on. So anyway, we will show you these temperatures now that we're sitting here. I mean, this truck doesn't even sweat. You know, what's the training temps at 177, or excuse me, training temp is 129. This Eisen tranny doesn't get hot at all, even when you're working it. Coolant temp 188. Of course, we're sitting here. One thing about the Ram, like I think I've mentioned in my last video, is, man, the temperature is so much cooler than the Fords. And of course, now that we've got a tuning and some stuff done, the truck is just doesn't even have to work. The temperatures are not an issue. And anyway, real happy with the truck. I'll probably do a video later on the truck itself. I don't want to get too carried away with it, but this is pretty much just for EGTs and such. So anyway, guys, have a good Thanksgiving, and we'll catch you later.